with training camp, and you've been around so long, man, you know so much more about it than me or us. Whether it's Washington or whether it's here, people looking for content, people seeing things in training camp where there are going to be, I think, defensive players that people are going to write about saying, whoa, hey, look at this, jump up, jump up, jump up, then maybe in the joints against Tennessee and Arizona. And I just don't want you, Justin, Ingram's second year, things like that to kind of be forgotten about into the season when it comes to key cogs, because I know you couldn't care less if the team is super hyped or flying under the radar, but specifically with the offense, you guys have a good team, man. And I'm not one to sit here and promise 13 wins and 11-0 in the one-score bits, but don't you agree that this is a good football team?
Certainly. I think it's key to have very high expectations as players of yourself, of your unit, rather than just settling for being good, but to really focus on being great and knowing that to do that, your practices, your preparation, your training camp needs to be at that level. Mm-hmm. And so there are times when players may walk off the field and think they had a good practice and they're doing a good job. And you have to reframe the expectation. Mm-hmm. Now, good isn't what we're chasing here. We're chasing great. We're chasing a championship level, and that requires a different standard. And what you did today, while you may feel was good enough, it really wasn't, because the standard is much higher. So I think challenging everyone to reach a standard that may be even higher than they think is a big part of training camp. And the team coming together, I think, is a big part of training camp. I do think that each player has their own process through camp. The guy who's right now is the 75th guy on the roster is fighting for a roster spot. Mm-hmm. The guy who's the 5th guy on the roster is not fighting for a roster spot. He's fighting for a world championship. And so there's different approaches to training camp within the locker room itself. And each player needs to be a pro and do what they have to do to maximize these practices we're given.
When you or coaches, to talk about the complexity of playing quarterback, and from a cliche standpoint, Kirk, it's widely considered, it's of all the pro sports, the core four, quarterback for a National Football League team, it can be argued, is the toughest spot of all of them, including pitchers for Major League Baseball, maybe goalies for hockey. And what I'm getting at is with the Netflix piece, with specifically with you and Patrick, blurting out the plays, you see the process that goes into the game, how it's coming at you as we know it's fast, but now we know how fast it is, and the changes that have to take place. It's a labor of love, isn't it? I mean, God gifted you with the ability to be accurate and not be a simply middle of the field guy. You can throw outside the numbers, and not everybody's like that. So the gifts are there. But from a scholastic standpoint, that really is the separator, isn't it, if you're not putting in the time?
Well, I do think that a big part of the position and playing it well is above the neck. Mm-hmm. It's how you process. It's how you see information, organize that information, and then make decisions in the moment. You can train your instincts through practices and through years of preparation, but so much of the game and the position is played above the neck, and it's hard for a fan to see that because they're not in meetings. They're not in those deep conversations. They just see the product, and it looks like a bunch of athletes just playing, but there's so much thinking that goes into it.
And off the way that Netflix series was put together, quarterback, it was unbelievable. I mean, I absolutely loved it. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of reaction of people who absolutely loved going deeply behind the scenes like that. But a couple of things that I kept thinking about in common thread fashion was those around you, they can keep secrets. I mean, because I'm here and in different places than a lot of media members, and I'm here a lot during the season. I mean, I never heard word one of this. And nobody said anything the whole season, never saw any microphones. Well, weird camera guy walking around at different times. You're like, hey, what's that? Like the Arizona Cardinals had that in-season thing last year, I think, on Well, I remember seeing them in the lobby when you guys were set to play them. But, I mean, it was a high-level secret, wasn't it?
I think a lot of credit goes to Jeff Anderson and our PR team here because they made sure that it was not intrusive for the organization, for our team, and that was a big non-starter for me. If this was going to be a look at Kirk all season, that wasn't going to work. And then NFL Films, I think, who was doing the filming, they were pros at how to capture the necessary content while not being intrusive. So the combination of our PR team, our organization, working with NFL Films, I think that was seamless, and it was a mission accomplished as far as getting through the season in such a way that it was not intrusive and people didn't really know they were there.
Right. So I would imagine you're fueling up at the Quick Trip down the street in Egan, and you're probably getting recognized now, right?
Well, what's
like
funny,
that didn't happen before.
It's funny. I would get recognized a little bit, and I don't know what'll change. I'm sure winning football games changes things more than a Netflix doc. But my wife, she was at the library in Inver Grove the other day, and someone stopped her, and then she was in the grocery store, and someone stopped her, and that didn't happen as much before.
Yeah.
So she probably is the one who has to get used to that.
Yeah, is she getting peppered or contacted by agents or those out Hollywood? I mean, she's told it. She was natural. She is natural.
Bob
the look
Hagan,
on her face when she said, like she thought for a second, should I say this? I almost left the Indianapolis game at halftime. I'm like, hey.
No, it's funny. Her policy has been to stay in the shadows, to turn down just about every interview. If you had asked her to come on today, she would have said no. And
come on.
The Netflix thing, that sit down she did with them, she even said, no, I'm not doing that. And I looked at her and I said, I think this is one you got to do. And it was funny because she did come across so well and so polished. And actually, she's someone who didn't want to do it, wasn't going to do it without some convincing. They wanted to mic her up for the games, and she said no. So they only have clips of filming her with no microphone on is all they have of her watching games. So,
but she looked natural.
She tends to shy away, but when she is on camera, she does a great job. So we'll see what it leads to. But knowing her, it's probably going to be going back into the shadows now.
Well, see, that's just Kirk Cousins 9 to noon training camp preview day. That was something that really jumped out at me. Just she sweat the games like she didn't know there were cameras around. And that's not necessarily the case for everybody when they're doing something like that. So, I mean, she's obviously invested, and the chat you guys had in the front of the car after the Giants game, and it was just terrific, man. But when
she's a big fan of football. We'll be on a vacation in July before training camp. Let's say I'm on a boat, out in Michigan, Lake Michigan, and she'll say, oh, I can't wait for training camp. Can't wait to get back. And I'll say, whoa, like we're on vacation. But she just loves it. She loves bringing the boys to the game. She loves following it. She loves watching the other games around the league when we come home from our home games. So it's been fun to have a spouse who is really following it, looks forward to coming to training camp practices, and just enjoys the whole process.
Kirk, do you ever, you're hungry, all right? You don't feel like making a meal. You ain't going to do the DoorDash or Uber thing or whatever. Do you ever, in the off season, get a bunch of, say, Tostitos chips or a bunch of chips, put a bunch of grated cheese on it, maybe some jalapenos, some olives, or whatever you like, and then just crush it? And it's a massive, massive, when's the last time you ate for your body an awful meal?
It hasn't been too long ago because it was our summer break just a few days ago, and that was kind of the last hurrah before you start to lock it in. So we call that, my brother-in-law started calling that Naughty Kirk. When I go out and order a pizza and a chocolate shake and double cheeseburger.
Yes.
I'm not really a candy guy, but, ice cream, whatever it may be. He said, oh, Naughty Kirk's, coming out and getting some walking around money. So Naughty Kirk kind of goes away now for about six months, but maybe an off day here and there, he'll rear his ugly head. We'll see.
Spearfish Sammy from Public Relations is telling me we have 90 seconds, so let's fit these two within 90. First, with Josh Oliver in the mix.
Yeah.
What's different with the running game that you like? Because this has been my off-season fascination, where I've been like, they got something up their sleeve here.
Well, he gives us a unique ability to really secure the edge in the run game, and then also in the pass game in some ways with pass protection, and then also his versatility as a route runner. I think his speed down the field gives us some matchup issues with versatility that in that personnel grouping with him on the field, we can really hopefully dictate some things. Yeah,
and he's the best. I've just been told by people from other teams and somebody here, he's the best run-blocking tight end in the NFL.
Probably. I haven't studied a lot. In OTAs, it was hard because we're not in full pads, but that's certainly a strength of his, and he should do a great job for us securing the edge.
And finally, is when you have said repeatedly that I want to finish my career in Minnesota. I mean, I know you're telling the truth, and I know your family loves it here, and Don and your mom and ancillary family members love coming in here. Do you think you'll finish your career in Minnesota?
I would like to think so. Obviously, this year is a big determiner, and it is every year, right? Every year you kind of say, I've always said, football seasons are like dog years where so much can change in the landscape of this league in just one season. And I think there is much that when last season began, nobody thought would be the case now, 17 games and playoffs later. Just a lot changes. So you understand there's a lot of football up ahead to determine where things go, but that's always been my hope and prayer is that I'd finish my career in Minnesota and that it would be a very successful one and be very hard to leave, when I do retire because of the positive experience we had here. So there's still a lot more out to go get.
And I would imagine being as in tune with the Bible and the Christian that you are, that you will have anxiety and you will have some sadness or some trepidation or whatever, but you won't become a prisoner to it. And that
the season's
kind
a roller
of key
coaster
here, right?
Well, the season's a roller coaster, and there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. You go in expecting that. Hopefully more highs than lows, but you understand it. Even in a great season, you're going to have some challenging moments, whether it's injuries or tough loss or the inches don't go your way. So you kind of get your heart and your mind ready for that now, understanding that that's a part of the journey, and tough times don't last, but tough people do, and just stay the course. And certainly my faith becomes a big thing I rely on, through the ups and the downs, to stay very level-headed and be consistent, because I think a big part of having success in this league is being able to do it again and again and again, and not just being a flash in the pan, but being a guy who consistently shows up day after day and gets it done.
Awesome seeing you. And,
absolutely.
And God bless
Lots
you.
More
God bless you and your family. And I just can't wait to watch you guys play, man.
No doubt. Thanks, PA.
I appreciate
we'll see you
Kirk.
practice.
Thank you. Good job with Netflix, too, man. That was
Thank you.
Absolutely terrific, you and your family.